What is going on, guys? DragonTamerBlayde here, back with some more Elder Scrolls Legends. Today we're going to be covering some news. We had a bunch of new stuff come out in the last 2 days. I know I'm a little bit late kind of covering this news, but I wanted to at least get a video out there just in case you watch my videos and you may not have caught it from somebody else, or you're living under a rock or whatever. First bit of news I wanted to cover. We'll get into the expansion or mini expansion in just a second. But Legends now has card backs. As you can see here, if you go inside your deck tracker or your deck creator menu screen thing, normally where you'd go see all your cards, there is now a little card back menu. You have your original, you have the Clockwork City card back, you have the Fall of the Dark Brotherhood card back, and then there is a bundle I think you can purchase right now. It gives you 5 classic packs, I believe, and then it gives you the Frost Atronach and the Flame Atronach card backs, and then this Nature card back is obtained through your first cash purchase from the store. So if you buy this card back pack, you'll get this one as well, or if you just buy some packs with cash, I believe you'll get this one as well. So this is a really cool feature that they added. It's something that's been requested for quite some time. It looks really cool. These are the card backs you see when you're opening packs. When your opponent pulls a prophecy, you'll see their card backs. And they also added to the intro screen, when it flashes your opponent's name and your name and shows the classes you're playing, it also now shows an example of the card backs that you're playing in that first menu. So it's really cool first step, and I really like the art on all 5 of these editions, actually. Right now I've been using the Nature one just because I think it's pretty cool. I think the Ice one's probably my favorite, but they're all really, really nice. I'm hoping that they expand this system into the future, find a way to get our decks onto the playmat so that you can see your own card backs, like basically at all times. That would be a really, really cool addition moving forward. And additionally, I would also like that if you could associate certain card backs with some specific decks. So if I click on Slay Scout and I want the Fall of the Dark Brotherhood card back, I can associate that with this deck, but maybe I play the Frost one with my Mage deck. So that's where I'm hoping to expand the system to the future. But this was a beautiful first step. It's awesome. Now we have the option of getting card backs for hitting Legend. I know they said they're hoping at some point to add card backs tied to titles and achievements you unlocked. So if you are someone who grinded those 100 wins with a mono neutral deck for the Centurion title, maybe there's a Dwemer card back in your future. Something like that. I'm really excited that they added this, and I think there's a whole lot of ways that they could expand this in the future, and the fact that we finally have our foot in the door is a great first step. So the next thing that I wanted to cover, we'll go into promotional, is the Forgotten Hero bundle. It is 12 cards, just very much in the same vein as the Madhouse collection was. And there are a lot of really cool cards. We're going to go through them all one by one. It is $10 cash to purchase, or 1,500 gold. Whatever one you have, it's your option. I believe if you spend the $10 cash, you'll also get the card back. Don't quote me on that one, I'm not positive. But you should be able to get it from that purchase, since it is a cash purchase. So the first thing we're going to cover here is Candle Crush Giant. Maybe we'll also look at the premiums while we're doing this. Premium Vision. So you have Candle Crush Giant, a 6 Magicka 6/4 with a summon effect. Deal 2 damage to all other creatures in this lane. So unfortunately it does hit your own creatures as well, but it's basically like a Skaven Pyromancer on steroids. 2 damage. Basically, honestly, the Skaven, obviously good for early game, but it's usually only killing some weak 1-drops and tokens for the most part. It's the only thing it's going to kill without doing prior damage to it. Cradle Crush. I've been calling it Candle Crush. Cradle Crush Giant, dealing 2 damage to all of the creatures. You're much more likely to pick up a KO, and on turn 6, it's more likely that you'll have damaged the creatures on board, maybe more so than it would be on turn 3 when you drop Skaven. I think it's a pretty good card. It's another card that works well with Doomcrag Warrior, although you'd wind up killing your Doomcrag Vampire. But I think it's just a pretty good card in general. The 4 health is a little bit of a bummer. Cards that die to Lightning Bolt as 6-cost cards. Not always great, but honestly you can't have 4 health be a deterrent in general, because you're not always going to be playing a deck with Lightning Bolt. So I don't think it's the worst thing. If it had 5 health, it'd be an amazing card. Right now I think it's just a pretty good card. and a card that I think can fit in some decent decks. We'll move along into Intelligence. This is the card that Intelligence gained, and it's a card I'm really excited about, and oh my god, it's my first time seeing that premium art. It is beautiful. So we have Doppelganger, 5 magic, a Daedra. It's a 1/1. But the summon effect is transform Doppelganger into a copy of another friendly creature. So, you know, just copying in general. If you have a fat creature on board, you have a second copy of that fat creature. But the key thing here, besides the obvious being able to copy Last Gasp effects, since you're turning into a copy of the creature, Doppelganger does trigger the summon effect of whatever creature you copy. So some things I've been doing in my Singleton deck, I've been Doppelganger onto Morokai to trigger that. You can Doppelganger onto your Ungolym to shuffle another 3 cards in. You can Doppelganger onto your Odoving to wipe the board a second time. There's a lot of flexibility with this card. This card gives you a lot of options, and if you're in a deck with a bunch of really good summon effects, Doppelganger is going to be key to you. Really cool card. I'm excited to use it. I think that card is going to be a pretty high skill card, and even a low skill floor card. I think you can kind of just take it and use it pretty well. This is a card that everybody's kind of been up in arms about. Cast into Time, a 5-cost action. Banish a creature and all creatures from your opponent's deck with the same name. So obviously the comparison is to Piercing Javelin. Piercing Javelin is a 5-cost action that just kills 1 creature, and it has Prophecy. So it kills 1 creature, whereas Cast into Time banishes it. And Cast into Time also banishes all copies from the deck. So in most situations, Cast into Time is going to be the better pick. But now, Piercing Javelin having Prophecy, that winds up being its crutch. It used to be that if you were running a yellow deck and you wanted removal and you weren't running Spell Sword, you would almost always run Piercing Javelin as removal because it was a 5-cost, kill something for free, and you also could play it for free from Prophecy. So there was never really a time where you were thinking about, maybe I don't play Javelin, unless you were playing Spell Sword and you had the option of Edict. Then sometimes you switch to Edict instead of Javelin. Now you have to decide, do I want to play Cast into Time, because I can completely wipe out all copies of that card from a deck, but I lose out on that ability to play it for free. So I think this is an amazing card. Unfortunately, it does rock combo decks, so like Action Market Assassin, if somebody hits one of my Hex Mages with this, the deck kind of can't really win anymore unless my opponent's already low. So it does wreck a lot of the more fun decks in the game. But it's a super powerful card, and if you hit like your support mage opponent's Tower Alchemist with this, they do get a lot weaker and harder for them to survive. Stuff like that. It's a super cool card. I think arguably the strongest card from the set, competitive use-wise. And I think we'll all have a lot of aggravating times at the hands of Cast into Time coming up. Next card is Sly Marshblade. I think one of the more sneaky good cards of the set. 2 magic, a 3/2, so it's normal, solid stats in general. It's going to be a really good arena card. Can trade up with a lot of 3-drops, not all of them, but a lot of them. And then also, its Last Gasp is draw a card if you have 7 or more max Magicka. So 7 is the key for some of the other, like Preserve of the Root, and there's that 2-cost Storm, the Henchman, that turns into a 4/4. I think that needs 7 or more Magicka as well. And then the legendary 4-cost 2/2 that spawns tokens. So this is going to be another one into that vein. Plays into what Ramp Scout used to want to do, so I guess it gave them a little piece to kind of try and be relevant again if you ever want to get back on the ramp train. Also gives Last Gasp Assassin some more card draw. Just more card draw in general is solid. Obviously it has to not be silenced, but it's just a sneaky good card. Not kind of crazy, it's not going to like blow your mind, but good card, quiet card, solid card. Next card we are going to look at is the Bleak Cost Troll. This is one of the cards that everybody was kind of up in arms about as well. They were saying this was kind of power creeping, stalking Shadow Scale or something like that. It kind of just plays into Purple's identity. Like you have Young Mammoth, 3-cost 4/4. Now we have a 4-cost 5/5. It's great for Slay Scout. I'm excited to put that into my Slay Scout deck. It's just a solid deck in general for any mid-rangey or even more aggressive cards that run purple. There's not a lot of decks that are aggressive running purple besides really Warrior. But mid-range decks with purple are going to love this card. and it's going to be another hard card because you wind up spending like a 4-cost Lightning Bolt answering a 3-cost Mammoth, and then they slam down this on turn 4, and you might not have more removal ready for this, or you're going to wind up 2-for-1ing a Mammoth and then 2-for-1ing this, and then your opponent's going to kind of spiral their board control from there. So again, this card's probably up there with Cast into Time for best card in the set, in my opinion. Another card that we're going to have a lot of fun times with. So now we get into kind of the more cheeky cards from the set. First one we're going to look at is Set's Masterwork. And this is kind of the smaller side archetype they were trying to push with this set, the Singleton set. It's an ongoing support. If you started the game with no duplicate cards in your deck, your cards cost 1 less. So if you're playing a Singleton deck and you manage to get this guy out early, the kind of advantages that you can pull, since you're already kind of at a disadvantage for playing 1-ofs of everything, the reduction of 1 cost on everything, kind of, you can try and gain back some of that advantage, especially if you have a lot of draw in your deck. And the other key about these Singletons rules is, the rule is if you started the game with no duplicate cards. It's not if you have no duplicate cards. So as long as you start the game with no duplicate cards in your deck, I can play Unglim, shuffle 3 Brotherhood Assassins into my deck, and this is still, it triggers, it's still fine, because I started the game with 1 of everything. So this card is huge, it's awesome, pretty self-explanatory how good that one is. Then we have Namira's Shrine. This doesn't go into the Singleton theme, but it goes more into kind of decks that want to play a bunch of card themes, which is kind of something that my Action Market Assassin deck can run into sometimes, where you're using all of these cards, answering, and you run out of gas really quickly. With Namira's Shrine, at the end of your turn, if you played 3 cards this turn, you draw a card. The cool thing is, it's not unique, so you can play up to 3 of them, and then if you have 3 Namira's Shrines down, you play 3 cards, you end your turn, you draw 3 cards. So obviously that's a more extreme scenario, where you can kind of refill all of the cards you used in a turn, but even just one of these, spend 3, draw 1 back, and then next turn you draw another one, you kind of only net down 1 at the end of the day. It's just going to be a useful card for decks that are spending a lot of cards to make their plays. The 4 cost is going to be a little tough to kind of recover from, but I think there's going to be some decks that can survive it. Then we have Morokai the Deathless, unique legendary, 5 cost 5/5. If you started the game with no duplicate cards in your deck, you gain 5 health and restore a rune. So this card obviously is a juggernaut in the Singleton archetype. Some of the test games I've been playing with Singleton decks, I've been able to blink this guy 2, 3, 4 times, and that's gaining 20 health, plus all those runes back, which is more card draw in the end. Obviously, he's a huge card. Singleton decks, the biggest issue that I've been running into so far isn't so much winning with them, it's surviving with them. So I have all of these cards, and there's some other late game cards that we're going to get into shortly that I have set up that I feel like I can win if I can get to that state. But a lot of the times, since I don't have my 3 Lightning Bolts or my 3 Fire Bolts, I have a hard time surviving, or even my 3 Hive Defenders. Morokai helps you survive, and if you can blink him, bounce him, play him multiple times, he helps you survive even more. He's another huge key card in that Singleton engine. And then we have Ulfric's Uprising. This is a cool card that I've kind of been hoping finds its way into the game, this effect. It's a 6 cost action, triggering the summon effect of every friendly creature. So obviously super powerful depending on your board state. That's the thing here. So if you have like Odahviing, Marok, Paarthurnax, all this stuff on the board, this winds up being a ridiculous action because you get to trigger all those effects again. But being that it depends on your board state, I think 6 cost is a little steep for it. But obviously I don't know what went into playtesting this card. Maybe it started cheaper and it wound up being ridiculous, especially because there's no body attached to it. You compare it to Necrom Mastermind. I think he's a 5 cost 5/4, triggers all of the last gasps, and that only costs 5, and you get to keep a body with it. I know last gasp effects in general aren't as strong as summon effects in this game, but you would think there'd at least be some kind of body attached to this. I haven't gotten to test it out yet to see if it's balanced or underpowered or whatever in its current state, but it's a card that I think if you use well could be kind of ridiculous. Next we have Siege of Stros M'Kai. This is kind of one of those late game options I was talking about for the Singleton deck. It's another one of those, like, let's try and end the game here. If you started the game with no duplicate cards in your deck, you play a random creature, item, support, and action from your deck. So obviously you're just getting a ton of value, even if you low roll from this. Like, worst case scenario, if you packed your singleton deck kind of balanced between all of the 4 card types, and you wind up pulling like 4 2-cost cards from this, yeah, it winds up being a little bit undervalued because you get 8 Magicka for 10, but you're also thinning your deck by 4, and you're playing them, and you get to choose them from hand. That's kind of worst case scenario when you play this card. With a little bit of cheeky deck building, like one of my singleton decks, my only supports are Goldbrand and the 3 Magicka unique reduce the cost of cards by 1, the set's Masterwork. So if I play this card at turn 10, I'm either getting the Masterwork, which is huge because I'll be able to play more cards in the late game, or if I've already drawn the Masterwork, I'm getting to play Goldbrand for free, and that's already 7 Magicka out of the 10, and everything else that I get from there on out is just bonus. So I wouldn't say so much. It depends on your deck, obviously. I haven't really thought too deeply into how to maximize this card, but in the couple of singleton decks that I've built, I've made sure that the item and the support I can get a high magical value from. So my support, like I said, it's the 3-cost support that's key to winning, or the 7-cost support that's great for surviving. So that's possibly 7 costs right there that I'm getting for free. And then the items I'm running, I think I'm running Dwarven Armaments and something else that's pretty high cost. I think maybe Dragon Priest Mask. So that's 2 different 6-cost items you're getting for free. So just those 2 alone, I'm getting 13 Magicka if everything goes according to plan. And then the creature and the action are just cherry on top. I've lived the dream once, and the action I've pulled actually wound up being the next one that we're going to talk about. But this is a card where singleton decks are going to be hard enough to pull off, but if you can kind of weave this in properly, you can have some crazy combos. And the last card we're going to talk about is Tullius's Conscription. It's 11-cost action, a very expensive action, but summon 1 of each creature from your deck that costs 2 or less. So if you have an empty board and you cast this card, you're summoning 8 creatures for free, 4 in each lane. So worst case scenario, if you're getting even 8 1-cost cards, you're getting 8 Magicka value and thinning your deck by 8, but that also means you're running 8 different 1-costs, which is ridiculous. More than likely you have a mixture of 1 and 2 costs. You'll get to kind of flood your board a little bit, and that's your average scenario. I think the dream scenario for this card is you play Journey to Sovngarde, and then you manage to pull this off, and then this guy is pulling all of the 7 Magicka or less cards that you shuffled back into your deck from before. And actually one time I played Siege of Strosum Kai, and it pulled my Tullius's Conscription. Unfortunately, I hadn't played a Journey yet, but it just wound up being like an insane Magicka swing. Like, I got an 11-cost action for free from my 10-cost action, so it wasn't even considering the creature, item, or support that I pulled. So another card that I think is going to take some planning to use properly, but is going to be very powerful when people figure it out. So that's it. It's 12-card mini expansion. A lot of really cool, unique singleton archetypes we're pushing, and then a couple other competitively viable cards kind of push some decks back up into the meta or power up some existing decks. And then we have our card backs and a bunch of other stuff that will be coming, I'm sure, soon in the game. So our very first month of 2018, January, treated us to a mini expansion and one of the most in-demand art or quality of life kind of happiness improvements to the game and card backs. So I'm very happy with the way Legends has started 2018, and I'm super excited to see where we're going in the future. But that's going to be it for now, guys. Let me know what you guys think of the expansion, what's your favorite cards, any brews you guys are thinking of that you want me to try. I'm excited to try all these cards out. I can't wait to get playing with them. But yeah, that's going to be it for now. Thank you all very, very much for watching. I'm DragonTamerBlayde, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.